So excerpts from the novelization have finally come out and are being shared by everybody, and two of them really impact both the Reylo relationship and the clone issue with Palpatine. Now, in terms of Reylo, apparently the excerpts tell us that when Rey and Kylo share a kiss together near the end of Rise of Skywalker, what they do is they share a kiss of gratitude. So Rey and Kylo don't really have a romantic relationship, according to the novelization. Also, Rey, in her mind, was not kissing Kylo, she was kissing Ben. As to why they did this or tried to refine what occurred in Rise of Skywalker, I can only guess JJ was a little worried that there was a kind of incest subtext. A lot of fans really believe that Rey and Kylo have some kind of familial relationship, but they really don't. They don't have any real blood or even genetic tie, but the film does kind of lead you to that expectation, so I think they wanted to be very clear that no, there's no romantic or even genetic connection between them, so when the kiss happens, they're not like, you know, family members kissing. I don't know why they were worried about that, but that seems the best reason I can come up with as to why they kind of refined what happened at the end. But in terms of the clone theory, which I'm a little bit more interested in, so now we do have the full story. So the Palpatine we see at the beginning of Rise of Skywalker is a clone. He is a clone version of the original Palpatine, and the original Palpatine did die in Return of the Jedi. So what we're seeing is a clone version of Palpatine, and one who is not as powerful as the original. But there are some differences of opinion as to what is going on. For instance, Thor Skywalker says that Palpatine has no power at all. He's completely has no force powers. I think that's too extreme. I do think we can assume he does have a lot of force abilities, clearly, but he's nowhere close to the original in terms of the power that the original Palpatine had. More interesting is that what's explained about his son, we thought that it was sort of a blood relationship, that the clone Palpatine or the original Palpatine had a son. That's not what happened. The son is essentially just a failed clone version of this clone Palpatine. So it's a clone of a clone, but the clone doesn't have any force abilities. So the Sith loyalists, the Sith Eternal, are disappointed that he's kind of a useless, powerless failure. But clone Palpatine apparently still wanted him around because he wanted somebody to carry on his bloodline. It's not really explained why clone Palpatine even cares about these things, but that's the reason that happened. And so in terms of why Rey is born, is that the clone son, basically, not the actual son, the clone son has a relationship with his wife. They have Rey, and of course they leave her in Jakku and all these things. But because he doesn't have power, we're sort of left, well, why did they abandon her? Because the only reason would be she has force-sensitive powers. But if he doesn't have powers, how did this happen? Was it just a miracle? Did the Force do this? Again, a lot is still not explained. And to top it off, it really does contradict directly a lot of dialogue that Kylo and Palpatine say. I mean, the clone Palpatine and Kylo both refer to her as granddaughter. They don't say, you're the clone of this, or the daughter of a clone. They say granddaughter. Kylo says over and over again, you are the granddaughter. So that leads us to think that the clone Palpatine at least has a relationship with Rey, but really they don't have any relationship at all except for just sharing a lot of genetic information. And some people ask, well, wait a minute. If the clone Palpatine doesn't have that much power, and they only share some genetic material, why is Rey so powerful? Well, I guess you could explain it with the wife. Presumably the wife had basically the balance. She has either force-sensitive powers, or at least the potential, so her powers can still be explained, but it still adds a lot of complications and contradictions to what we saw in the film. It doesn't really clarify very much. But one of the biggest issues I would have is like, well, why do they even say granddaughter? Technically, she is a daughter of Palpatine. She is the daughter of this clone version. Not directly. She's not the daughter of the clone Palpatine we see at the beginning, but she is the daughter of a clone version of Palpatine. So why add granddaughter? Why give us the false expectations that this is going back to the prequels? So again, there's still a lot of problems with what the novelization is saying and what it's clarifying. I don't think it really does clarify. It seems to ruin a lot of the story and make Kylo out to be a complete idiot. Like, how does Kylo know that the Emperor that he sees is a clone version of Palpatine, but he doesn't know this about Rey? Like, how does he not know this about Rey? That doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, if he studied clones so much, you'd think you say, oh, you're a clone of this or a clone of that. Did he want to mislead her or lie to her? Was he manipulating her? Because if he didn't, he just comes off like a complete moron. So his force powers are completely erratic and all over the place, as well as his level of knowledge. So there you go. So the Reylo relationship has now been clarified. It's more of a platonic one, and according to Rey, she was kissing Ben, not Kylo. And yeah, now we know that Palpatine's son is just a cloned version of himself, and the Palpatine we see is just a cloned version of the original Palpatine. I don't know if this really helps or clarifies. It just seems to make things a lot more complicated and a lot more worse. But some people who really like Rise of Skywalker will probably be a little vindicated in terms of them finally getting the full story. Though I think the vast majority of Star Wars fans are going to look upon this as like, this is completely silly. It just ruins Palpatine. It ruins Rey and Kylo, and that's the other maximal interpretation. I'm sort of in the middle. It's at least it provides a little bit more information, especially with the Sith Eternal, but it still leaves a lot unanswered and does not provide a completely satisfactory resolution to the problems and paradoxes of Rise of Skywalker. So this has been Star Wars Analyzed on the continuing clone saga and the Reylo relationship. If you like the content, please like or subscribe. Thank you for listening. Star Wars Analyzed. Thank you for listening.